Cities that earmark funds for public art programs understand its role in creating a culturally vibrant community. In this segment of Frame, we show you some of Iowa City's public art, but first we meet the person behind the program. Joining me now is Marcia Bollinger from the city of Iowa City. How are you, Marcia?
I'm good. How about you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me.
What prompted the initiation of this program?
Back in 1997, the city manager at the time was a public art enthusiast, and had come from a community that had a pretty aggressive and active program. There was also the downtown pedestrian mall, which is where we're sitting, that was due to be renovated in, I think, 2 years in 1999. And he knew at that point that that would be a really appropriate time to start considering public art and funding such a project so that we could see more public art on the pedestrian mall.
Sure. And how was that received by the powers that be?
Not wholeheartedly embraced. Public art is one of those things that it's always going to be a little bit sensitive in terms of whether or not it's appropriate for public funds to be being put into it. There's always going to be two viewpoints, or three or four.
5 or 6 at some point.
And so it was a bit of a push to get that approval and to set aside annual funding for it. But they were successful, and for 2 or 3 years they received a pretty substantial allocation every year, which funded most of the art you see down here, including the fountain, which is the first public art project. Many of the sculptures that you see, well, all of the sculptures that you see downtown received funding within that time period. It really did make a dent in that need for public art.
Well, it's beautiful. I can't imagine walking down here without seeing it. How has the public responded, as well as the business owners, to having the sculptures like we're sitting in front of the jazz piece here?
I think for those folks who you'll see it fresh every day, I always see new faces coming up and looking at it, and particularly children, depending upon the sculpture, to check it out. The businesses, I think, hopefully really appreciate it. It has brought in a number of conferences, the public that want to see what we're doing here in Iowa City. In fact, we've hosted a couple of them because it is pretty fabulous.
Yes.
The Iowa Avenue Literary Walk is another project that it was done within that first 3 or 4 years of the program.
Well, it ties so directly into Iowa City's heritage.
Oh, exactly.
That it's so much fun. I find myself walking and looking down and reading and rereading, and it's just such an uplifting experience. And of course, the fountain is such a key feature during festivals and other activities down here. It's a great family attraction. So tell us about how the program is managed. I understand it's not just you, but there's a team of people behind it. So will you give us a background on that?
There is a public art advisory committee that's been in place from day one. They have, in fact, they established the bylaws and the code of which they operate, and the essence of the committee is that there are 5 people from the public, 3 of which have to be public art professionals, 2 can be just your average person on the street or interested in art, and then there's 2 staff people, the director of public works and the director of parks and recreation, because those are typically, many of the locations are overseen by those 2 staff people. So
excellent.
So they provide input.
And how many pieces are in the program right now throughout the city?
You know, I'm not really sure. We do inventories all the time, but I've never taken a count. I'm going to estimate, in terms of sculptures, permanent sculptures, that we've got probably 12 to 15.
Okay.
We have 3 murals that were produced as part of the program. Iowa Avenue Literary Walk is not necessarily a sculpture because it's all flat and plaques. The North Marketplace Literary Walk, which was just completed last year, and it's something that a lot of people don't know about. That does have some sculpture to it. We have plenty of opportunities on our public art website for people to learn more about what kind of art pieces we have in various locations, and and as well as this walking tour that was created about 4 or 5 years ago. It's called Glimpse, and it is available on the website as well. It doesn't offer a full view of many of the art pieces. The idea is you just get a glimpse, and then you really need to go out and look at it in person to get a better idea of what the sculpture's all about.
Well, I did this. I pulled this down, and anyone can get this off of the city's website. It's very easy to find. It's a PDF as well, so you can download this, print it out, and take your own walking tour, which is what we did to show you the art that you're going to see during the show. So it's a variety of work, primarily sculptures, a few murals, and then the plaques on the street for the literary walk.
Yep.
Any other works that would be considered for the program,
actually,
or have been?
part of the public art program, and one that we're continuing on with some of the budget cuts we have, is the Poetry in Public program as part of the literary component of art. And that started now 10 years ago. If you're downtown, they're all posted in the downtown kiosks. We've got them in the library, in the recreation centers, and on the buses. So yeah, if you ever see a poem, that's typically a Poetry in Public product. And we get a lot of, the submissions seem to be increasing every year. We get between 400 or 500 submissions from both adults and children, students. And there's a selection committee that chooses 83 of them. That's an odd number, but it's based entirely on how many buses there are, because we have 3 in each bus. and it's been very, very popular. We even have readings of the poetry at Arts Fest. The poets that are chosen, and they really love. They love to read their poetry. There's standing in line waiting to read. So it's fun.
Really dynamic poetry community. I've discovered so many amazing talents recently that
and people you wouldn't even expect. I get submissions from people that I had no clue they wrote poetry. I knew them from another phase of my work or personal life or whatever. And so it's kind of neat.
All right, I'll keep my eyes open for that. And what about the new benches? Because as you know, I'm really craving to paint one of these benches.
Well, I know the one we're sitting on isn't necessarily painted. It looks like it's a I don't know what it is, like a wallpaper.
It's
fun.
fun.
And it must be working its way up or something. But this project is actually, it's kind of sponsored by the Public Art Advisory Committee, but it's really implemented by the Iowa City Downtown District.
Okay.
They've recently changed their name, and this was more or less their idea. They recruited a lot of the street artists and professional artists and amateur artists that are now participating in this. Public Art Advisory Committee reviews the proposals just to make sure they're well represented and available for all public to see, and that kind of criteria. But I think the more you look around, the more you see just a real diverse inventory of different art styles and themes and applications.
Right. Color, it's a great variety.
Yeah, it's been very popular. We didn't know how it was going to play out because it's a lot of art in a small area, but it seems to be working well.
People love it. I know whenever I'm walking down here, I'm finding which bench is new, and people I know, they comment on them, take photos, upload them to their social media pages, blog about them. So it's a very popular feature, and this is my formal plea to be able to decorate a bench for whomever is in charge of that. But we'll move on from there. What's the future of the public art program?
Well, we're struggling a bit right now. Over the years, we've seen just kind of a gradual cutback in funding, public funds, that is. And I think that's to be expected in any type of economic times that cause you to have to prioritize a little bit more than others.
Sure.
So we are able to maintain some of the low-cost projects, such as the Poetry in Public, because basically that involves a lot of staff time, but paper, basically. Printing the paper is the hard costs.
Yeah.
We are also able to continue some smaller projects. One of them that we're really trying to get kicked off is the donation station art project. And that involves, there's parking meters that are painted kind of a periwinkle.
Oh, yes.
Or purpley shade that they have in place throughout the Ped Mall to encourage people to donate to the donation station. And then those funds are given to not-for-profit entities. And what we'd like to do is start incorporating art on those. We had one student from West High create a pelican, or toucan, excuse me, out of one of them, which turned out marvelously. Unfortunately, it accidentally got pulled over while it was on display in the library, so it didn't really last very long. But the goal is to get maybe at least 2 or 3 of them on display, and then maybe solicit some of the businesses downtown to sponsor them, or to orchestrate the artwork itself. There's a lot of talented business people or business people who know talented people. We don't care how it's done. We just like to see it done, kind of like the benches, you know.
Sure, and the pianos, of course.
Right, and that's something that was purely orchestrated by private business people downtown.
Right. Which makes it, again, a place you want to come. Anybody can play. It's fun to hear people of all levels to play. It just really creates the overall experience, which I think keeps people here, keeps people coming back, and really paints the picture of the community.
Yeah, it's always something new.
Yes.
It's like the population.
Yes.
It's very diverse and
influx of new energy and yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Any other tips you can give us about public art and how people can get involved and help them further appreciate what this beautiful city has?
Well, one of the things we're talking about budget cutbacks. We've been, the committee's been toying with different ideas in terms of using what little resources we have to encourage further growth, to maybe create some partnerships with some other entities that might be willing to help fund the projects. So, and there's also grant writing. There's a variety of other different resources that we're looking at, because we still like to continue on with the project. One of the more popular projects that we've had in the last 5 or 6 years has been the Neighborhood Art Project. I don't know if you got a chance to go out and take a look at any of those, but people are familiar with Iowa City. There's the houses that are on top of the street signs in the north side. There's the Geese and the Goosetown neighborhood on top of the street signs. Those are all neighborhood art projects.
Okay.
Actually, Weatherby Park has a very elaborate project. Washington Hills at Pheasant Hill Park has a wonderful mosaic project that I could go on and on about. But those have all been art projects that were developed by the neighborhood residents. They worked with an artist to refine them and then produce them. And they're usually very low cost. So I'd really like to see a little bit more growth that way. We've got a lot of sculpture downtown. We've got quite a bit in different parks, but the neighborhoods, there's still quite a few that are interested in participating in that project.
How can people find out more?
Contact me. Phone number 319-356-5237 or Marcia Bollinger at iowa-city.org.
Okay. And you go to the city's website if you don't catch that and learn more.
Just Google Iowa City Public Art or Bing, whichever you prefer. I search for it.
Yeah, I know. Everybody has their preferences. I appreciate your being available to tell us more about the program and how it works, how people can access it, how they can get involved. Let's definitely continue this program and find creative ways to keep expanding it and to maintain what's already here, because we are very fortunate to have it. So, any parting words? Anything else we need to charge the community up with?
Just keep going out to see it, keep appreciating it, and make it worth the time and the effort that has been put into it, because there's lots of it out there and it's around every single corner if you look closely enough.
Definitely. Don't just walk by, engage. All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you for tuning into this segment of Frame.
Frame is sponsored by Allegra, Click Marketing Solutions, Stylefolio Jewelry,